Hello everyone and welcome to Red Sky Media. My name is Kellen and in today's video we're going to be taking a look at action cameras. In particular, a rather cheap one that's caught my eye. This is the Crosstour 4K and it only costs £40 or $50. So as I said, this only costs £40 or $50 depending on where you are in the world. And that's very cheap for a camera. So what is an action camera? Well, I guess it started a long time ago, back with GoPro, when they brought out the GoPro Hero, which is now I think 10 years old, maybe not 10, maybe about 8 years old. And basically it was a waterproof camera designed to be worn on obviously maybe a chest mount, a head mount, a wrist mount, and it lets you capture things that other cameras weren't really capable of unless you had high-end cinema kind of gear. This allowed sports such as snowboarding, swimming, various kind of outdoor activities to gain more traction, as well as it allowed them to show off more and show off their kind of creativity of the people doing those sports. Over the years, DJI have picked up a little bit and they're now challenging GoPro for their throne at the top end. But back down the bottom, we have cameras like this, which only cost a fraction of the price. The new GoPro Hero 8 and the DJI Osmo Action cost about £300 to £350. Whereas, as I said, this costs only £40. So what do you get for that £40? Well, obviously you get your camera, that's one thing. You also get this nice box from Crosstour, and inside the box, well, I won't get everything out, you get a little thank you note, all the leaflets and the usual kind of things, which I'm just going to chuck on the floor for now. You get 2 batteries with the camera. I will touch on the batteries in a little bit, and you also get obviously a replacement back end for the battery, which is open for better audio quality. We will come to all the audio tests and things like that later on. You also get quite a generous helping of various kind of attachments and accessories, and if you have ever had GoPros or any other kind of action camera, you'll recognise straight away the kind of mounting system, which is that little 3-pronged one with a little screw that goes in like that. This means that you can basically try and attach this to any kind of mounts that you may already have, or any that come in here. So obviously you get quite a fair amount of stuff in here too, and if I can find it, there it is. You also get this, which we tested a little bit, and it's okay. It's nothing particularly special, but it's basically a little strap that sits on your wrist and lets you take pictures or video remotely as long as you're inside 10 meters. I didn't have any problems with it, it worked fine, but to be honest, if you're inside 10 meters, it's probably just as easy to press the button and then walk into your position anyway, at least in my opinion. I didn't really find much use for this. But one of the big things that obviously you use action cameras for is sports. So I grabbed my trusty old football, which is very, very old, I should warn you, and I headed out into my back garden to have a bit of a kick around and see what I could record with the action camera on my head. As you may have noticed from the timestamps as well, this was recorded over a year ago now. Originally we did get this camera about a year ago and we planned on basically doing this kind of review of it, and we just never got round to it. Lots of things got in the way, and now with things we brought online, we thought it would be a perfect time to kind of dig out this old footage and finish off the review with some new footage too. So anyway, back to the sports camera, because that's the bit that's important here, not me rambling about timestamps. So yeah, in terms of an actual sports camera, I think it's great. I mean, in terms of the actual kind of smoothness, obviously it is lacking that kind of stabilisation that I've touched on already, but again, you're paying such a fraction of the cost here that it's still pretty smooth for what it is. Obviously this is just in-house kind of, I've not even added stabilising effects to this, so that's something that you could then go and do as well. And in terms of obviously the actual pitch quality and stuff and smoothness of it, so this was recorded at 1080p 60 fps, and again no frames really dropped in here as far as I can tell. Everything's quite smooth, it's quite fluid with my movement. When I'm dribbling, when I'm kicking the ball, it all seems pretty steady. So in terms of the price you're paying, because I think that's the big point that we have to keep referencing throughout this review, is that this is not an expensive camera whatsoever. So it's not going to be a top quality kind of camera in all of those like areas, but for the price point, to be that kind of cheap GoPro to capture things like this, whether you're playing football, riding bikes, playing hockey, you name it, like a sport, any kind of sport really, GoPros can just sit on with all the mounts and you can capture yourself doing them. So as far as I'm concerned, I think it's passed the sports test with flying colours. So we're going to head into our next test, which was all about the underwater housing. So as we've been enjoying such a nice heatwave recently, me and Hallam decided to head down to the beach that's just around the corner from us, and we decided to go and take a paddleboard down there and head off into the sea so that we can test the underwater features. Well, so you get to see a mix of underwater footage and obviously me just bobbing around, treading water around Hallam on the paddleboard too. Maybe a little bit of me paddleboarding. So enjoy that, and I'll be back in a second.
You think you're too far, but I'm where you are, you know. I said I won't leave your side. They left you bare, but I'm begging you, stare in my eyes for you. Yeah, I give my life. Yeah, I'm not here to hear you say you're fine. I can take the pain you hold inside. I wanna know, wanna see it. Can I feel your grip tonight? Can't get this off my mind.
So there we have it. I guess the big question is, does it work underwater? And the answer is yes. The waterproof housing is great actually. It's very secure, very robust, and yeah, I'm very pleasantly surprised. So big thumbs up from me and Hallam on this front. It works perfectly underwater. It works perfectly in the water in general as well. The only problem is obviously you get this with all kind of action cameras, is you can get water on the lens. There's a couple of clips in there you can see it, so just make sure you're keeping an eye on that, just kind of wiping it off. If you can, bring like a cloth or something with you. I try to use my swimming trunks occasionally, but it doesn't always work. Obviously, as the sea itself is not particularly clear here in England, as you can tell. We've got more green than blue coloured sea, but we did obviously still manage to see this jellyfish, which was quite nice to kind of capture something else underwater than just blank sea. And don't worry, no jellyfish or Kellen or Hallams were harmed in the making of that. But yeah, in terms of obviously the waterproof stuff, it's all perfect as far as I'm concerned. It works really well, and it works really well as well if you're just kind of swimming alongside, like wanting to capture things that aren't underwater, but obviously you need waterproof protection because you're in water. I will say, just to note, obviously it's not very stable, the footage. I know we mentioned this in the sport bit as well, but I think it's more apparent here because I was holding it with my hands and I was just kind of treading water with my feet. So obviously the waves, my body movement, having to constantly be moving, didn't, I think, help. I think it made it more unstable. So perhaps if you are looking at this for kind of water use, then maybe invest in some kind of like head mount or stabilizer. Yeah, that might be a bit more useful to kind of keep it steady. But then again, maybe you want that natural kind of wavy look in your footage as well. So just something important to note. Or as I mentioned earlier as well, you can obviously opt to stabilize it in post, which we haven't done because we wanted to show you what it looks like kind of out the camera footage wise. But there are obviously stabilization options in editing softwares available too. So very quickly before we move on to the next section, he's going to kill me for it, but here's a quick video of Hallam dying when he fell in the sea. I'm sure you guys are going to absolutely love that.
This is a tutorial of paddleboarding.
And just so he doesn't kill me, here's a video of me falling in too to make it fair. There we go, nice and fair. I cannot tell you how cold that sea is as well. It is freezing. Anyway, time to move on to the next section, which is going to be all about colour. So as you can see here from this video of the lake, the colour profile, well, it's not great, unfortunately. It's a very, very flat colour profile, but we'll touch on that in a second. Obviously, the actual image quality we've kind of spoke about already, and the colour profile doesn't really help much here. It's not particularly a sharp image, it's not very clear. So you can see in the background it's very kind of blurry, there's not much depth on it. But as I said, so the actual picture profile itself, the camera doesn't come with an option to install picture profiles, but the picture profile that's on the camera seems to be very flat. And what this means is that you can actually color grade the footage. So if we take this footage here and with a couple of clicks and some colour grading, we can turn it into this, which looks so much better in my opinion. Obviously it brings out the colours more, it just makes the image pop a little bit more as well, which is quite nice. Now I understand that obviously the majority of people that buy this kind of camera are not going to have knowledge perhaps of how to colour grade or even want to colour grade. I completely understand and get that. Obviously colour grading and that kind of aspect in general is more geared towards more kind of professional filmmaking and cinematography, not the target audience for this camera, which is obviously just an action camera. The majority of people that do purchase a camera like this, they're going to use it for things like this: cycling, sports, kind of action videos. It's an action camera. And if we colour grade this footage instead with the exact same kind of settings, it makes a difference, but it's not a massive difference, to be honest. I think it's more clear on a kind of cinematic footage as opposed to something like this when you're cycling. So yes, the image is a bit prettier now, but realistically, is it going to make a huge difference to the kind of quality if you're filming a video where, you know, you're just kind of trying to get action shots, you're just trying to get entertaining footage? Then no, I don't think so. So worth noting, I suppose, if obviously you're interested in the best kind of colours, and well, if you're interested in the best kind of colours, you certainly wouldn't be going for a £30 action camera, would you? But if you're interested in better quality colours and things, then perhaps obviously you may need to pay that extra bit of money and go for the kind of GoPros and DJIs that offer that, as opposed to this, which is a bit more kind of flat and a bit more kind of basic colours. So very quickly before we move on to test the battery life, I just wanted to note that the camera did actually steam up. This was the hottest day of the year that we were using it on, so we do have to at least mention that. But as you can see around the edge of the screen, there's steam on the housing inside, and the camera eventually just shut down because it got too hot because of this. So just something to kind of be aware of and note if you obviously are looking to purchase this, is that if you live in like a hot area, if you plan on using it in the heat, then it may die on you occasionally, and obviously the housing itself can steam up. Now on to the battery life, and as you can see we just kind of filmed a church nearby and let it play out, and the battery actually lasted 1 hour and 12 minutes, which obviously I was recording in 1080p 60 fps the whole time, so it's not bad, to be fair, to the little camera. For the price again, to obviously record for that length of time, it's quite impressive. Normally with action cameras you tend to film short segments, so again I don't think the battery life is anything to be too concerned about based on this. And that does bring us to our final testing point, which is going to be the audio levels. The audio quality inside the underwater housing of the action camera. And this is the quality from the housing if I change the back, so it's no longer underwater but it has still got the housing on. And this is the quality without any housing at all, so just holding the actual camera now, just the body itself. So as you can see, the quality is not great with the underwater housing on. It's basically inaudible. This is what it should have sounded like. So this is the quality inside the underwater housing of the action camera for audio. So obviously that's playing from my normal mic when I record stuff. So obviously the audio quality there is vastly different. So the actual audio quality with either the housing off completely or with the back open, it's actually quite good. But yeah, the actual audio itself I don't think is too bad. You can hear it, and obviously again you can edit it and play around with it if you really wanted to, but for the most part I feel most people that kind of get these kind of action cameras, at least in my experience anyway, from my own personal point of view, I don't tend to care much about audio because I don't tend to actually record things with audio for them. It's more to record kind of things that I'll then put with music or maybe edit afterwards. So anyway, that is it for our review, so we're going to head back to the studio. It's time to wrap up for a conclusion and final verdict. So in conclusion then, I think this is a fantastic camera for the price, I really do. You're paying such a small amount of money for what really is quite big potential here. Yes, it's not high end, yes it's not professional quality, but for this price you can't expect that. And I think that's a really important thing to take away from this, that obviously if you've got that extra money, if you're looking to try and get, you know, the best quality you can out of an action shot to film your snowboarding, your sports, your whatever, then you probably should go for the, you know, the GoPros, the DJIs, because they have that stabilization built in, they have that kind of next level things that make them more professional and just make them better quality. However, that's not what this is for, that's not who this is for. This is for people that, you know, just want something cheap and fun that they can take down to the beach with their friends like I did, you know, go biking with it. They just want something that's quick, easy to use and isn't going to cost them a lot of money. And I know phones have come a long way in recent time. I know that obviously phones are more than capable of doing most of the stuff that this can do. Most phones can do more now. Obviously they can shoot in 4K, some can even shoot in 8K. But, you know, the picture quality is not that important at the end of the day. It's more about, obviously, like I said, the fact that, you know, you can take this in the sea, you can mess about with it. And I think that's who this is aimed at. So if that sounds, you know, like your kind of persona, if that sounds like something you are interested in, then I really do highly recommend the Crosstour 4K camera, because for the price you're not going to find a better version or camera. And I think at the end of the day it's as simple as that. So I hope very much that you've enjoyed this little review. That is by hitting that subscribe button, clicking that like button as well, that helps us out massively. If you didn't like the video, dislike it, that's absolutely fine with us too. It helps us to know what kind of content to create for you guys. So lastly, thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and as always, we'll see you in the next one.
You think you're too far, but I'm where you are, you